I've had these Dunlop Trailmax Raids on the Africa Twin since July of last year, and I've covered what is approaching 4,000 miles now, 3,615 to be precise. So I thought I'd bring you a quick video to let you know how I've got on with them. The intention was to give you a full technical breakdown of the tyre, but actually that's a lot of detail to squeeze into this video and I wanted to keep it short, and I have already done a Dunlop Adventure Tyre range explain the video, so I'll leave a link to that in the top corner of the screen and you can go away and watch that at your own leisure. Now, I was thinking about getting out and doing a nice flash edited video, riding and talking and doing all that sort of stuff, but I thought actually what you want is real anecdotal evidence of how I've got on with these tyres, so I thought I'd just deliver that here, sat next to them, and I'll cut in some video excerpts of me riding. Seems to make sense. I'll break this down into three sections: road, gravel and dirt. So let's start with the road and I'll tell you all about how these performed on the tarmac. I switched to these from the OEM tyres on the Africa Twin, which are Metzeler Karoo Streets, and immediately I noticed a difference on the tarmac. These are quieter, believe it or not. Although they are a 50-50 tyre, they've got a much bigger knob profile than the Metzelers. These were actually quieter audibly, which surprised me straight away. Now, don't get me wrong, you do feel a buzz from these. They are a relatively knobby tyre. The blocks are designed to make them smooth on the road, but you do get that little bit of a buzz. You don't really hear it. You do feel it a little bit through the bars, particularly from the front. You don't really notice it from the rear. But audibly, they were much quieter than I was expecting. I was expecting a bit more of a roar, particularly on the motorway, and you just don't get that. On the road, I found them to be really confidence-inspiring. Again, when you first put new tyres on, you do have to be careful. So initially, I was kind of tickling the bike around, and I was conscious that these were 50-50 tyres. But once I got them scrubbed in, actually you don't really think about that too much. The only time you do on tarmac is when things get a little bit wet. Then obviously you have to take a little bit more care. I'm not going to say these are a panacea. These are not a perfect all-round tyre. There are compromises. We'll talk about that when it comes to the dirt. On the road, the compromise is that you just don't have the same level of grip as you would do from a pure road or touring based tyre, although these are pretty good. In my day-to-day riding, I genuinely don't think that these hold me up. If you're really going to push on, then obviously you will notice these, but the level of grip is still phenomenal. You know, once you get up and rolling, these get up to temperature nice and quickly, and they give a really good solid feel. In the dry, they're very good. In the wet, they're even better than I was expecting them. I was expecting them to be a little bit skatey in the wet. Not at all. A really, really good 50-50 tyre. Initially, this was going to be a 3,000 mile review. I'm probably closer to 4,000 miles now. Actually, I'll check the speedometer to see where I am. And you can see the level of wear that we've got. There is a flattening off in the middle here. They haven't squared off. I've still got a really nice round profile, and I've still got quite a bit of meat in there. So I would imagine I've got another couple of thousand miles at least out of these before I have to start thinking about changing them. The front has fared better than the rear, but this has been ridden quite a bit with a luggage on, and obviously it's got my lump on the back, so the rear is going to suffer a little bit more in those circumstances. In the lanes that I ride in Essex, there's quite a lot of flint about, so you will find some cuts in here, but I've not lost any edges of the blocks. So as a tyre for the road, I've been very, very impressed actually. Yep, there is a compromise, as I say, but as an overall tyre, if you've got an adventure bike and you want this chunky look and you are riding a mix of road and off-road, it's definitely a good choice. Switching to gravel, and I've separated mud and gravel because there's a different performance level for this tyre between those. Again, on gravel, this is where you really notice those knobs. The grip that you get from these, particularly on these side lugs, is really good. You can kind of get it onto the side a little bit on the dirt and you're still confident you've got that all-round grip. In loose gravel, it seems to hold that very well. In hard packed gravel, it works very well as well. Now, I ride a lot on what I call country lanes. Some people refer to them as green lanes, although they're not technically, but they are narrow. They are one car wide, if that at times. They are tarmac, but that tarmac is usually broken up. It's covered in gravel, there's grass growing down the middle, that sort of stuff. These are just perfect for that. They just give you that extra bit of confidence knowing that if you do hit some gravel, there's a good chance that you will clear them out. Now obviously gravel under any tyres is going to be a problem because they just act like marbles and the tyre skates on the top of it. But with a cut like this, you've got a chance that you're going to get more edges gripping and you can clear the gravel through these slots, which you can't do obviously on a very smooth tyre. So on those sort of roads, they're perfect, and that's why I really like these. Very confidence inspiring. You get a really good idea of what they're doing. They don't feel like they're going to break away. And very stable under braking as well. So for gravel, I think this is where these really excel, these tyres. If you've got a combination of road and gravel, these are perfect. If you're getting into wetter stuff and mud, that's when it does change a little bit, so we'll get onto that now. Well, I didn't really get much chance to film in some of the deeper mud. I've got a little bit of footage here where you can see in the front where it does clag up. Again, in my part of the world, there's a lot of clay in the soil, and unless you're running really aggressive knobbly tyres like the 908s, you're going to have trouble with them sort of filling up and this packing out with mud, and I had the same with these. Having said that, they will clear pretty quickly as well. But one of the downsides of these being that 50-50 is that when it gets really sticky, although the blocks are quite evenly spaced, they're not as widely spaced or aggressive as you would get on a pure off-road tyre, and that's the only time that I found these struggled. So in deep, thick or gloopy mud, they do find their limitations fairly quickly. Arguably on this type of bike, you're probably not going to be taking it to those sort of places anyway. Some do, I'll admit, I don't. So what do I think of them overall? Well, if you've got a big adventure bike and you want something that looks the part, let's not beat around the bush. Some people do like their adventure bikes to look rough and tough and chunky, even if they don't take them off-road. If that's the case, I think these are a fantastic looking tyre, but you could ride these on tarmac all of the time and not really have any problems with them. They work well in the dry, they work well in the wet. Obviously, if you start to really push on, then these are going to be limited over a more road bias tyre. Something like the Meridian or even a pure road tyre is going to perform better on the tarmac. I think these really excel on loose gravel and hard packed gravel, and maybe even a little bit of light sand. These are really, really good. Once you get into the mud, again, they are a good tyre, but they will fill up with claggy mud pretty quickly. They will clear quickly as well, but the limitations soon make themselves obvious when you start getting into the really thick stuff. In reality, these have been a really good all-round tyre. I toured to Ireland on them and we had a mix of tarmac, some sort of gravelly byways and side roads. We had plenty of rain on the motorway. These were as stable as anything, even when it was chucking it down with rain on the M25 and the M4. They're a comfortable tyre to ride on. The sidewalls are relatively stiff, but they're nowhere near as stiff as something like the Mission, which are really designed to give you loads and loads of mileage on a set of those tyres. If you're travelling around the world, for example, Lavi and Ollie, if you follow them, they've been riding a Suzuki V-Strom 1050 around the world, 2 up with full luggage. They've been using Missions and they've got incredible mileage out of them. The compromise for that is they are stiffer, they are heavier, and they're going to be a little bit noisier and a little bit less comfortable. I would heartily recommend these. Everything that I do on the bike, which is predominantly road, they've held up fine. The gravel trails where they are excellent, and if it gets muddy, I can get by with these as well. If you've got any questions, then drop those in the comment section down below. And also, if you like these more sort of anecdotal, conversational, short videos as product reviews, then let me know. But I thought it worked for this. I can do lots of video of me out riding, talking through my helmet, everything else. But what you really want to do is see these tyres and get my honest evaluation of how they've been over the last nearly 4,000 miles. So Thank you for watching, and all that leaves me to say is until next time, take care, ride safe, and I'll see you soon. Bye.